Mm-hmm. Wonderful. All right. Okay. Hi, Caroline. Hi, Cassia. Yeah, I think I more or less recognize everyone, but I haven't met everyone yet. I think lovely. Very good. Okay. So welcome everyone, and I'm sure we're going to have some other joiners. Yeah, Carrie? Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. So George has got his camera off. Yeah, okay. Wonderful.
Oh, so sorry. I was on mute. I
Right,
was just
it's okay. Yeah.
talking away. I was saying that one of our
Go
favorite
ahead.
traditions is for people to put in the chat where they're signing in from. So could you guys please put in the chat where you're signing in from?
Yeah, it's always good to see where everyone is from. And in the meantime, I don't know, shall we say a few words about, the expert talks?
Yes, I have no problem. Am I glitching? Is my connection bad?
Yes, yeah, that's why I'm kind of waiting. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, our expert talks are a really amazing tradition. We've been doing it for many years now, where we try to bring impact and contribution and support in many different areas and subjects as they're connected to language coaching. We host this free event for our ILCA community every month. And it's a way to come and learn with us and engage with us and explore subjects in a bit of a deeper way. So we're very excited to have Gabriella's worked really hard for this one today. And it's lovely to see all of you here and more people still joining every minute. I do just want to say, please do consider coming to the conference in Malta. We are all year round. We are an online organization. It's one of the things that makes us strong is that we are a community of language coaches and practitioners from all over the world. But once a year, we find it really important to come together in person and see each other's faces and learn from each other. And that's usually a mix of different people as well. So this year it's going to be in Malta. We still have our earliest bird tickets. And if you are a language coach and you're wanting to come and share the work that you're doing and share your expertise and your area of expertise and knowledge, please consider applying. Our workshop proposals are still open for the conference as well.
Absolutely. Looking
All right.
forward to seeing everyone. Yes,
Gabriella, I'm going
absolutely.
to hand it over to you and
Right.
I'll be letting people in, so don't worry about that. I'll be monitoring.
Yeah, okay, fine, wonderful. So welcome everyone. Thank you very much for being here. And I know everyone is super busy, which is also one of the reasons why we're recording today. So that's an extra benefit. You can rewatch, you can check any of the slides that you want to get a little bit more familiar with. I'm just going to try and talk you through it at a relatively fast pace. There's a lot to cover today. What I would like to highlight is that I will be talking about 5 key shifts. So that's the kind of pulling title that I chose. But of course, I'm also going to be building up towards what those 5 shifts are and why those 5 shifts are as important as they are. So bear with me, and I'm very happy to share the slides later on as usual. So I'm going to start with a sort of big picture and then kind of swoop in on the details. So that's kind of the logic of it. And then at the end, of course, there's hopefully some time for Q&A. I will be here, Kerry will be here, and if you've got some questions, then I'll be very happy to answer them as we move along, okay? If you've got something, throw it in the chat box. We'll try to monitor that too, okay? So moving on, what I want to start with is this concept or this idea of what role elasticity is. Very often we're forced to make decisions, whether we're writing a CV or we're presenting ourselves, we're pitching to a client. or we're just introducing ourselves to somebody. And the first thing is, so what do you do? Well, I'm a, and then we make that decision. What do we say first? Which one should we bring first? Am I a teacher? Am I a coach? Whatever. And immediately, you know, all these question marks. That's the first thing that kind of has been actually accompanying me over the years, is this constant decision making of this either or. And I mean, obviously, towards the end of today, we're going to realize that it's not the right question that we should be asking ourselves. It's not an either or thing. So we should be trying to focus on learning as much as we can to be able to be competent and confident in the role switching that we have, and to be able to do that with the ability. I mean, I think the biggest skill is to know when, where, and how to use the various roles that we are confident in. Okay, so that's going to be one of the things. And another thing which is, I think, essential is to have that depth of skills to be able to say with confidence that I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I'm whatever I am. Okay, so this sort of elasticity, I think, is really, really important. And it's not really a question of whether I should be a coach or not, but when and how and in what way. So the questions that I would be asking, for example, is how distinct my boundaries are. Am I super, super clear on where I am? What sort of interests or what kind of benefits are they serving? What kind of clients are the different roles serving? Something to think through. And also, what is my goal, my own professional aim by having multiple roles? So what are they serving for me? What's the benefit, the advantage of it for me? So a couple of pretty deep questions right at the beginning, and I want you to start thinking about these, and this is how we're going to move on. So first thing that I did was, as a sort of fun thing, sometimes I just get these ideas, and I said, okay, I'm going to ask AI to create an image. And this was the exact instruction I gave to it, and I've been working with it for a while now, to create an image depicting how I work with, and this was ChatGPT early in January this year. And interestingly enough, this is the image it came up with. And to be honest, this might be an insider joke. Carrie will definitely know, and those of you who have been in the field and or the conference, whatever, it looks completely like Esteban, and it's kind of like, it's quite.
That's really funny,
actually. And I thought, first of all, where is all this coming from? Why does it associate me as a male? I look really happy. I'm not always happy when I'm working with it. Sometimes I get quite frustrated with the there and back. So a lot of sort of questions here, but the coffee is okay. The pen and paper is okay. So it did get some of it right. So just the kind of assumptions, biases, so many things, you know, that we have. So what I want to sort of investigate is how, in whatever role we are so much more than AI, because there's this fear, you know, in the air that it's gonna, you know, it's gonna take our work, whatever. We are so much more than just data exchange with our own clients. So let's have a look a little bit into some of the aspects, okay? So one thing is that we have to decide what the approach of education is to AI. So how is that conversation going on? I mean, we're all part of the language education industry. We could be looking at sort of a now or later approach. So something which is short term or long term in how we think about AI. We could be looking at it like it's something old, something new, in that we're looking at the teachers who have had so far a conventional role, but that is definitely changing over time. we're also looking at ways to be assessing learners, new categories that are coming up in the work that we're doing with our clients, our learners. We could be looking at it, introducing AI into education as providing us and our learners more freedom, or it's going to be giving us less responsibility or our learners less responsibility. How is that? Or it's giving us less freedom and giving us more responsibility. So it's up to you to decide which one you want to go with, which one you believe, which one you are working towards, right? Is it supporting our jobs or is it taking away some of our tasks? So many things that, again, we need to be looking at. It could be, in a way, a little bit like a melting iceberg. So teachers cannot be replaced. Yes or no? I don't know. I'm not the expert in AI. I'm just looking at it from a number of perspectives here, okay? And the question is, of course, what is your approach? Which one are you picking out now? Which is the one that's kind of calling out to you? There's also a lot of sort of boundary work here. Things that we need to be looking at. It's no longer in a box, right? So it's pouring out of the box. And it's now, what we are doing is also incorporating everything beyond teaching. So maybe 10 years ago, you felt that you were working as a teacher. And that has definitely changed over the past few years. What we can see here is that there are quite a lot of things which are hard to handle now. And if we're looking at them on a scale, right? No problem, big problem. It's a very easy scale to be working with. Again, those who are familiar with coaching will know it, but probably it's familiar from other places. So if you're looking at, the system as such, the system of education, of language education, is it dysfunctional? Not at all. Yes, it's a huge, big problem. In terms of doing the work that you do, is there some sort of financial or performance pressure? Is there volatility in what you are doing? Are there corporate and business challenges in what you're doing? Are there mental health, trauma, emotional regulation issues? Same thing, multiple communication zones, self-management for yourself. Is it not a problem at all? Are there big problems? And of course, AI, which is also a part of it. So again, having a look at these different categories, trying to identify where is it that there's some sort of pain point for you? Where is it that you feel that there's a strength for you in the way that you are working? We can be looking at our work from the perspective of whether we're working with and for our well-being, or we're just trying to avoid serious burnout. It's up to you to decide. Obviously, I think everyone is pretty aware of where they are. We follow our teacher training for a very long time, and then we realize that it's no longer serving us because we've developed, our clients are different, 10 or 20 years have passed, or 5 years have passed, whatever. And we realize that the reality of the classroom, the training room, the teaching room, is completely different to what we originally learned about. And so there are a lot of challenges, a lot of stress that happens, and that can very easily lead to burnout. What we need to be looking at is the various aspects of it, which could be the physical aspect of work, your own self-care, workplace issues, your colleagues, your peers, your superiors, whatever, ecological, even cognitive. So how much very, very heavy lifting for the cognitive side of you. There is the digital side, the social and the temporal in terms of time, deadlines. There's never enough time, or you've got too much time and not enough, I don't know, work, etc. So a lot of different ways to be looking at it. And which of these signal more well-being or less? So that's also an aspect to be looking at. Now, for those of you who are not that familiar with what coaching is, what it does, I put in one or two definitions here, and we'll be looking at autonomy and agency on the next page. I'm not going to read them out there. They're just there for us as a sort of, a definition to start from. Of course, the ILCA definition of what language coaching is, it's a learner-led process. It's creating optimal target language acquisition, and we're working towards effective international communication skills, okay, to reach goals. Coaching with AI by Bugger, this was last year, I think, November or December. There was a piece that he wrote, and he said, two interrelated concepts: the coaching process or model by which the coaching session is organized, and the working alliance or partnership that the client and coach form during the coaching session to help the client make progress towards their goal. So there's actually two loops going on, how we're involving AI and how we are coaching with it. So it's a very interesting sort of thing to be looking at. It's all about control and the processes and the purposes that we want to be working with. On the other side, and this is also related to what I'll be talking about, we're looking at learner autonomy. Of course, one of the most important definitions came from Holleck, 1981, to take charge of your own learning, the ability to take charge of your own learning. So this is kind of the alpha and omega. In 2011, there was kind of an upgrade, another sort of definition here, the capacity to take control of your own learning. That's also an interesting thing to note. Why these are important? These are important because we need to understand how we are working with AI and how these are going to blend into the processes. If we are not aware, if we don't know, for example, as professionals, what the difference is between autonomy and agency, then we're not going to be aware of a lot of nuances in the processes that we are bringing our clients, our learners into in the realm of AI. Agency is a complex dynamic system involving motivation, affect, self-regulation, self-beliefs, and emotions. The latent potential for self-directed behavior exercised when learners believe their actions impact outcomes. I think one of the key words really is actions impact outcomes, okay? So when the client, the learner, believes that what they do is going to impact the outcome, that's truly, truly motivating, yeah? Lasman Freeman says that the sense of ownership and control that language learners have regarding their learning. So it's about control, yes, but it's also about ownership. It's my thought, it's my idea, it's my independent action that is moving me towards a goal. In my book, I also wrote about agency, and for me, I kind of bring it together with autonomy, okay? So it's the initiative and will to take responsibility for one's own learning process, while autonomy represents the capacity to do so independently. And the language coaching fosters both by empowering clients to clarify the goals, reflect on progress, and implement self-directed strategies. So for me, it's a far more strategic. I like this concept of empowerment. Through the work that we do as coaches, we're going to empower our clients and help them to move forward with their own goals. Okay. So we're looking at these roles. What kind of roles are there in the mix? Is it just teaching and coaching? What else do you feel for yourselves? Okay, so there's this sense of having to rethink who we are, what we are doing, why we're doing it, who we are doing it with, for, where does AI come into the picture? And what we've been doing so far might not get us where we want to in the future. There's a lot of rupture, there's a lot of upheaval happening in language education as such. So the question is, how are we approaching our own professional selves? Now, this is probably familiar for a couple of you. The interesting thing, why I brought this chart here, first of all, we understand the various aspects of teaching, coaching, mentoring, counseling on this chart. What we can do is to look at it from, I'd like you to take a moment to look at it from the perspective of what is it that we in these different roles can do without AI? Which other roles, which aspects of the roles we can do or should do without AI? Which are the ones that we can do with AI? And which are the aspects which we should not, I'm not saying ever, but we really should not use AI for? And what are the reasons for these decisions? Okay. So can AI, for example, support the imparting of knowledge? Or can it, if we're looking at, let's see, can AI help us to be more collaborative or more therapeutic? It brings up quite a lot of ethical issues, professional issues for us and for our clients also. Is it going to help us to bring in relevant experience as a mentor? Is it going to help to remain structured? Is it going to help us to be more non-judgmental? Most of these questions don't have clear black or white, yes or no answers, but it gets us thinking out of the boxes that we usually might create for ourselves. So the question is, is there a specific role where you feel that AI can take over, or just certain elements of a role where AI can come in handy and useful and really, really support the work that we are doing? And do you see any of these roles where AI should not be involved at all? And if this was a round table, then I would definitely say, okay, well then let's let's have a conversation about it, probably at the end of today. So moving on. So the question really is, what is it that influences them? So I'm going to just throw up a number of things here, okay? So convention, resistance to change is going to be something, I think it's a big thing. We don't want it. We just want to keep the role that we've had so far, or not. The needs to personalize, that's also a big one. That's emerging very strongly from the client side, from the learner side. The industry, a field is at stake. What's going to happen with language education? Where is it heading? It's definitely in upheaval, right? Challenges, there are challenges everywhere, of course. Are we able to maintain or create a more holistic perspective? I'm reading up in various research articles, and this word is cropping up more often. So for me, that's a positive thing. Looking at social and cultural backgrounds, how that is influencing our perspective of AI. Oops, brought up two here. Well-being, of course, always a thing. Too much AI is not necessarily a friend of our personal and professional well-being. How we're handling autonomy and agency for ourselves, for AI, its purpose, its role, its goals, and also for our learners, and how these are interrelated with each other. Technological advances, obviously, but not only AI. There are other advances that are happening day to day, which we need to keep into account. Other external factors that might be infringing on our professions. There will be 2 or 3 charts here, and then we're going to be looking at the 5 shifts that I wanted to talk about. So here we've got the World Economic Forum. I love these charts because they're very up to date, huge big data sets that they work with. So it's very, very good to be analyzing them. Now, what we see here are the core skills of 2025. And of course, what we can see is what coaching supports. Primarily, it's going to be number 2. Sorry, it's so small, but otherwise I can't get it in. So number 2 is resilience, flexibility, and agility. Number 3 is leadership and social influence. Number 5 is motivation and self-awareness. Obviously, that's going to be one of the large chunks. And number 7 is empathy and active listening. So these are in the top 10. In fact, it's in the top 8 of the skills, the core skills that are needed for employees in 2025 for their workforce. Okay, so, and this is where we can bring in quite a large amount of influence. Okay, so it aligns with the skills of coaching that brings in self-efficacy. It's going to bring in emotional intelligence, behavioral change that we can be supporting, and these are developmental changes in workforces today. And it's not only the cognitive skills, as you can see. So there's a lot of other things that we can be working on as coaches. Okay. What else do we have? Another one is the McKinsey Global Institute. I found these recently. It's amazing that you suddenly come across these or search for them, and then wow, they're going to give you all the material you need to be thinking about this topic. So what we have is skills change index. What does it do? The bottom line, can you see my mouse as it's moving along? No, all right, okay. So the bottom blue line, right, is the one which says that we've got leadership, management, writing, quality assurance, etc. And in the top, we've got coaching, communication. That's where the arrow is. And what we see, coaching and communication related skills will have less exposure to AI over time than other skills. And that's really important to understand that what we are doing, the more it's ingrained in such a very, very person-related, person-to-person skill, it's going to be less effective than something which is very technical. You can see programming languages. So if someone's a programmer now, they better start looking for a completely different job over time, or start upskilling, reskilling, whatever, okay? So what we're going to see here is that communication-related skills, assisting, caring, actually good driving, these are things that are really required of a person, and they can't be, replaced by someone else or something else. So a little bit of food for thought here. Obviously, when you look at the slides, you're going to see all the details. Okay, I do want to move on. Why does coaching matter again? What we see here is skill distribution, okay, based on the skill change index. And what we see again is that communication, collaboration, creativity, and management skills, so these are usually the areas that we are coaching in, conflict resolution, relationship management, these are the lower automation exposure, also leadership, coaching, stakeholder management. These are things that people do. And on the higher end of the spectrum, you might see report writing, analytical thinking, troubleshooting, because AI will be able to do those things. Same with prioritizing, invoicing, cash management, for example. So it all depends. You're on a spectrum, and certain elements of your work are going to be replaceable. And what I'm really unhappy about, I went through the whole thing and I didn't find much on teaching, but it's the same for teaching. There will be certain elements of teaching, report writing, etc., which can be handed over to AI, right? And there will be elements when you're face-to-face with a client which will not be able to be replaced. So what are we actually looking at? One more report here and then we'll move on. the OECD Digital Education Outlook. It came out this January, I think 2 weeks ago. So it's really, really fresh, very crisp. And what we see here, I put in a couple of quotes here so that you'll be able to, read them, have a look at them. It's looking, if you look at this chart here, this figure, you see performance and learning. Okay, what do we see here? So we see if something is not desirable, then the performance is going to be low. If it's desirable, meaning that the learner wants to do it, then suddenly the learning is going to go up. There's nothing new here, right? What we are looking at is AI will over time, and I think it's the first quote that is really important. Let me just share that. Someone's joined, yeah. A growing body of evidence suggests that the introduction of generative AI can create a mirage of false mastery. And that kind of struck me, and I want to know what that is, where high-quality AI-enabled output conceals underlying weakness in human skill, which means the performance might be high, but the actual performance or the learning of the skill is not going to be there, which means it's very much product and goal or output focused when very often we're working with AI. And if we're looking at learners, they're going to produce beautiful essays or whatever, letter writing, or they're going to be able to put together amazing reports themselves. Are they actually able to do it over time themselves? That's the question. Or will they be continuously reliant on AI to do it? That's another thing, reliance. From then on, it's a bit like a drug, isn't it? Oh, I'm just going to check. And there's going to be this continuous extra loop in everything that we do. So a couple of things to be thinking about here, okay? Without the challenge, the struggle, the cognitive process dependence grows, performance dwindles, as does learner autonomy. And that's why the agency and the autonomy was very important. We get dependent, we just throw it into AI, sure. But what happens is that kind of thinking is going to disappear over time. The critical thinking, unless we are one step ahead and we are aware and we can explain or we can coach them so that the decision making, the critical thinking is there with the learner and also with us, so that this reliance is less and that the responsible professionalism is going to stay with us so that we can support them, even though we are using AI and the learner is using AI, okay? That's why this is also an interesting bit here. Teacher agency, a teacher's capacity and incentive to make choices and exert influence in their professional practice, also towards their learners, so not only for their own selves. So I think it's about intent. It's the intention. Do we want the learner to produce good stuff, or do we want them to learn the process and be aware of how they are creating that product output? So some things to be thinking about here. And for me, this was an interesting one from the American Psychology Association senior director, who says that chatbots were not designed to address mental health or emotional support. That's our role. And they're being coded to keep you on the platform. Oh, this is fun. Oh, let's just do that. Oh, hey, it can do this, it can do that, whatever. And we're already pulled in. So there has to be an awareness of how much you're doing, what kind of activities, what kind of tasks you are giving AI. And it can be unhealthy, of course. So where is all this leading to? My first question here, I'll try to make it very, very briefly interactive here. What do you think this tree symbolizes? Any guesses? Just throw it into the chat. I don't know if there was anything in the chat or not.
Amanda is saying choice of fruit.
Okay.
Maria, that AI is feeding itself from our knowledge and experience. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Carolyn going for the low-hanging fruit. Kata, AI stealing fruits. Yeah, can you see the chat, Gabrielle? Yeah. Perhaps Matthew, perhaps going for the low fruit instead of going for the fruit higher up. Yeah, absolutely love those interpretations.
Very, very good. I think we could open up all of them, but what I went with was this low-hanging fruit thing. The AI is now there. I'm not saying it's going to take away, but a little bit of the, you know, the easy harvest is gone in terms of the kind of work that we do with our learners, because now it's much easier, perhaps, to say, oh, you can create an activity if you're stuck a bit with AI, or you could be asking your learner to create, I don't know, a vocab test based on the words that you have, or you do that. And the question is that a good idea or not? That our learners become accustomed to the fact that AI is a part of the process. Will, over time, what will happen is that they say, okay, well, if AI can do it, why should I be paying you? Why should I be working with you? I can do it independently, right? So those are the questions that might come up. So one thing that might come up is you have to rethink your entry point into the market, which means that you have to develop your skills, right? So you might be looking at where you are, which is somewhere here with basic teaching stuff, let's say, and that's getting pushed further up. We might need to be looking at more deep dives in terms of what we're doing with our clients. We might be bringing in how to focus on well-being. We might be bringing in how to offer meta coaching, which means that we want the client to be able to use AI, and we enable them. We teach them, we work with them so that they can use AI. Who knows? Or maybe we're looking at ways to use AI to, I'd say, to bring in some extra elements which we might not have thought of. I sometimes put together elements of training that I'm doing with companies using AI as a kind of ideas generator, okay? And I would say that there's nothing wrong with that sort of thing. It can work, absolutely. Knowing, again, how far you are willing to go, what is it that you're incorporating, what is it that you're not. So it might be that we have to start thinking more up here instead of only focusing, and I'm not saying this as a bad thing, but only focusing on language learning itself. What else besides language learning? Is there something else that we are offering there? And that could be something that could be an extra point when we're on the market, so to say. Okay, now we're going to look at the 5 points. So the first one is learner-led goal setting. What do I mean by this? So we're going to be moving away from traditional models, okay? It's not just that we are the vessel and we're going to be pouring into the learners' heads, so to say. We have to start looking at ways to personalize these learning journeys. We need to be looking at not so much content, but much more on facilitative processes where we're focusing on what the client, what the learners are trying to achieve. We're looking at what kind of environment the learner is working in so that they can identify what they really need. So it's a much more personalized goal setting process than, okay, we'll assess you and then we'll start working with whichever book. These days are really, really disappearing, and also the client's not expecting that so much. Does it mean that the client will be fully responsible for their own goals? No. We're going to be collaboratively exploring what goals the learner really needs and what's going to serve their needs. And a couple of questions that you could ask here. Obviously, there are hundreds of questions, but I'm just going to pick out one or two here. So we could ask the learner here, how do you want to approach today's session? So we're handing responsibility in the way that we are involving them in what we're doing together. What do you need most right now to move closer to that goal? We don't know. Maybe they just need a glass of water. We don't know. And AI doesn't know either, thank God. Well, yeah. What's missing right now to move forward? Is there something that there's this thing. I know that we were talking about it last time, but I'm still kind of stuck on it. Okay, well, let's have a look at it. If you don't ask, you're not going to get an answer. Second one, self-reflection, powerful questioning. One of the most important things, not only in coaching now. So this is where I'd say I think the sphere of teaching is moving into much more, where we're looking into open-ended questions to be more supportive in the work that we're doing. We help the learner to articulate what they need, okay, and so they can find solutions to issues that they have. Powerful question is not necessarily something that on the one hand, it goes really deep, yes, of course, but it's going to help the learner basically, like if I look at a tree analogy, I would say a good question is going to be above the surface, but an even better question is really going to go down into the roots, but not stay there. Then it's going to travel up and it's going to affect the whole of the tree, the branches, the leaves, everything. And the tree, if it gets a lot of good questions, will be able to start growing. And that's the point of it, that it's going to induce some kind of growth for the learner. And the question is not asked just so that the coach gets an answer. Very often, one of the things that I hear is that, well, I don't have the time or the energy for this sort of thing. And it's weird in the classroom to be doing this sort of thing. And even they themselves might not necessarily be as self-aware as they might be. Maybe there's some CPD, some mentoring, and then that's kind of it. We need to understand that our awareness, I think, is one of the biggest tools that we have. Awareness of our own personal selves, our professional selves, and then, of course, being aware of what's going on for our clients and how we can be supporting them. A few questions that we could ask is, what is or is not in control for you at the moment? Where do you see my support would be most useful? Okay. So we're promoting learner initiative in a way. What role should I take on to help now? That's an interesting one. So do you want me to be a bit more directive at this point? Should I be a little bit more, at ease and letting you to think things through? Which one would be more helpful? Where do you see your thinking has shifted? That's also a good one. So the goal of any sort of coaching work that we have is that we want the learner to understand that it's about them, but it's not about, oh, now I've got an action plan. Yes, of course, that's also important. And we keep them accountable every week, like, did you do it? What do you need? What's missing, etc. But actually the shift needs to be in their mindset, how they are approaching things in a different way. So that's something that coaching can do. and then moving on into ownership and responsibilities, we want them to be vulnerable without being hurt, of course, okay? And very often we are also vulnerable because we don't know the answers. That's not the point of us asking something. And that's also a huge, big shift from being a teacher to being a coach. We don't know the learning history. We don't know the learning preferences of the learner. We don't know their goals unless we start asking questions and opening up about them. So we have to be very clear on what our own roles are, what our own tasks are, what sort of learning processes are going on for the learners, what outcomes they want, what we can provide, and how we are demonstrating partnership all throughout the process, which is essential. It's about being able to be sustainable, which I think is a very key thing. Teaching long-term is not sustainable. I think it's time to say that. It's a very challenging, very energy-centric type of work. And when we are able to bring in coaching, then I would say that there's more of a balance going on. And not so much, heaping the coals on the head of the teacher. And we can also cultivate dialogue. And we're moving from we say everything to inviting the learner to tell me more. And then at the end, it's let me ask you. So it's a permissive sort of process, which is important. And the questions that we could be asking is, how would you describe our roles in this process? We're shifting that responsibility of observation towards the learner. Where do you need guidance, and how or in what form do you want autonomy? That's an interesting one. How do you see being a learner affects you? That's also an interesting one, especially when we're working with adults. What will be different this time? Okay. Again, the shift. What's going to change for you? How do they observe it? What are they noticing in the process that they are in? Okay. Fourth one, active listening, psychological safety, also very important to be open, to be curious as a coach, also for our learners. So we're role modeling, right? I always say this, we need time and space to listen. And we work a lot with our presence. Again, something that AI is not capable of. It has a kind of presence, but would I say that's psychological safety? Definitely not. Actually, at some point, I fit in certain elements of this presentation into AI. And the response was, great topic. Thanks for sharing the deck. It's rich, ambitious, and very you. And I was like, oh my God, that's just so pathetically really bad feedback for anything. So AI is not necessarily able to move beyond a kind of praising, complimentary sort of work that it does. Another thing we need to be very aware of is to be supportive with the protocols and the guidelines that we have as a coach, as opposed to an AI coach, which does not necessarily have the ethical background to be working with learners. And there can be situations which are very inconvenient or uncomfortable for the client. Things that we could say, obviously, again, this is not putting it in your mouth, but just just an example. I'm here to listen. What do you want to talk about? I hear you. Allow me to challenge that thought. Our discussion remains confidential, even though only share what you feel comfortable with. So we always have to be, inviting and curious to the point which is comfortable for the client, okay? And the last one is, of course, AI in the learning process as such. And I found this picture, it's very good. And what came to my mind was, who is teaching who? Are we teaching AI something? Is AI teaching us something? I think it goes around, right? So what we have here is thinking about how AI is accelerating learning output. That's true, but the development itself is not necessarily going to be there for the learner. And that's where we have to be very, very aware. Just because the output becomes much better with AI, is the learner's transformation also deep enough for us to be okay with it and for them to be okay with it? Shifting from can AI do it to does it add value? There are a lot of things that AI can do. The question is, does the learner need it? And what is also happening is that there's more and more sort of mediation between person and AI, which is also worrying in learning processes too. And of course, the empathy is not going to be there. So the learner kind of skips a few steps. It's faster, it's more efficient is the big word, efficiency, sure. But is that what we need? People who can just, keep doing this sort of thing. So there's not going to be the agency again. So what the strongest is always person to person. And what is challenging now is that AI has sort of come in between. What we need to be looking at perhaps is AI being there, but the person to person connection has to be there. Okay, that's essential for us to, be aware of, the learner agency, also the boundaries and the responsibilities and the roles that we each have. A few questions that we could be asking is, how are you currently using AI in your language learning, right? How can you remain agentic in your learning processes? Where are times that you feel that you need to be doing more thinking? AI is taking over critical moments in your learning. What should I be doing to support your decision to remain more agentic regarding AI? And where are stronger boundaries needed? So quite a few things to be thinking about here. And bear with me, 2 or 3 more slides and then we're done. Language cognition and the responsibilities. Now I fed my input into AI and I said, well, what I'm curious about is about the roles, coach role, the AI role, and what is it that AI cannot do? And what is it that it can do? And of course, it can do the repetitive stuff. What it cannot do is notice emotional shifts or changes, or, if someone pulls a face or that sort of thing. So that's just not going to be there. It's also not going to be able to add fun and warmth. It's not going to be able to understand, intuitive, sensing, like when you see that a learner is not really clear on what is going on in terms of grammar or something. Also cultural things, it's really, really bad at. Emotional hooks. So all the things, the emotional intelligence, a big sum of that is not going to be there. Noticing in the practice and the executive, whether there is some sort of stress related issue going on and how they are going to handle that. So a couple of questions in each of them that the coach can ask. Obviously, again, it's an endless story. So what we're looking at is if AI is going to be replacing executive functional things like planning, choosing, the decision-making, the monitoring, instead of the learner, then the learner's language development is not going to, it's not going to develop, it's kind of going to stall. So where is it leading us? A couple of questions here to close off. Something very beige and boring, more affordable in the language industry. Do you see all this work as something very exciting and we're on the brink of something truly phenomenal? Or Are we going to be delegating the low-hanging fruit, and that's going to be our reward, that we don't have to deal with it? Or is it something for us to think about in terms of how we wish to develop in the future? One or two things that we can be looking at is how we can apply Socratic dialogue, which of course forms one of the bases of coaching dialogue, the kind of cooperative, more argumentative dialogue that we have, which has, structured questioning. We do need to be more aware of our roles, how we're applying AI, how we are combining our skills and our coaching competencies, and bringing in the Socratic question-based method, if you will, to support our learners on their own individual path, which is potential. And one or two more questions here. I'm full of questions. If I had been an AI bot, would you have been as engaged? There's me, and there's that. Which one would you be happier to be, listening to? Also, if, obviously not, but if the presentation had been completely generated by AI, do you think it would have had the same impact? Would it have made you think so much? Because it would have been probably extremely generic, very sort of general stuff which it would have brought in. Some of it might have been interesting, but again, the logic, everything, I worked quite a few hours on this. It's worth putting that extra stuff in, right? So thank you very much for being here. And again, if there's something you're interested in, do get in touch. And I'd be very curious if there are any questions here.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriella. This is a wonderful presentation. While people begin to gather their questions, and you guys can drop it in the chat, or you can just unmute, whatever. We're open to a dialogue. I just want to share one of my big takeaways from this was thinking about, at ILCA, one of the main things we're doing in our training programs is helping educators to begin to flex the muscle and develop the muscle of not immediately offering advice and tips and recommendations. And I know that that's challenging for so many new language coaches. And we can all, and teachers, right? Because we're taught that that's what makes us great. Okay. So as teachers, and then in language coaching, we have to unlearn it. And so it was making me think, however, though, that as a language coach, we can give language learners that presence of mind, that mindfulness really, that AI is not giving people, because AI is very responsive and advice given, and you say one thing and it generates 5 or 7 different things in an entire outline and all of that, and then at the same time there's the stress about what it's doing to the earth as it's over generating and over responding, right? And so I just think that is something in particular for language educators, we're always looking to how do we differentiate ourselves? What are we still able to offer? Well, guess what? Mindfulness, human presence, that ability to actively listen and hold space for someone to get there on their own, right? So that's what I'll say. I'd love to hear from others. And let's see here.
One or two ideas in the chat. I'm just looking here. By the way, Carrie, we can't see you, so.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right. Okay.
I'm aware. We've got Caroline Raphael. Is the friendly, enthusiastic AI response a reflection of accessing US American behavior? Probably a bit.
There must be some kind of cultural thing going on there, definitely, I'd say. And it can be, unless you have a specific overriding prompt to say, I don't want this, I don't want that, but to just stay, you know, pragmatic and very objective.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got Matthew raising his hand.
Yep,
Matthew,
go ahead.
want to come off mute? And go
Yeah.
ahead.
My first question was, I arrived a little late. I had something going on at work here. And is there a recording of the session so I can watch what I missed?
Yeah, sure.
I was just going to say I'm in Barcelona. I'm from the United States, but I've been living here longer than I ever lived in the United States. I came here in 1994 for a 2-year position and haven't gone back yet.
Stayed.
And I own a company. We do in-company language training. At first it was only English. Now we're doing 9 or 10 different languages. And one of the things I've been trying to do in the last couple of years is bring AI into our program, but not as a replace. I mean, I've been on. We have this thing we created called the Pedagogical Power Hour, which we do 3 or 4 times an academic year, and we invite with our teachers. And last year I decided, let's just open this to whoever wants to come. So we have lots of teachers that are not working for us right now, and they come in. And I remember a couple of years ago, and one of the first sessions we did, there was a teacher who was saying, you know, I'm getting out of this sector because AI is coming. We're not going to have a job anymore. You're like really afraid. And sort of the philosophy that I'm trying to promote is sort of not to be afraid of AI, but embrace it and use it where it can be useful. And when you come at something with that, you're coming from a place of love and appreciation instead of like fear. Oh my God, this is going to take my job. And quite frankly, we've had some amazing things happen. Like some teachers are doing really great stuff. Like we had a teacher who created got questions for somebody who was preparing for a job interview within the company. And, you know, I mean, so the idea of using it as a support. And so I just saw the latter part of your presentation, but I loved it. And I think that, you know, we don't have to be afraid of AI. It's here to stay, but to foment what we can do with students to help them get through their trauma with learning languages.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about experimenting and as you said, that kind of finding where that sort of sweet spot is, which is that it supports the learner to really develop and not do things instead of it, but to really support their development. I think that's one of the key takeaways for me working on this material, was that I think that's really, really important for us to understand as teachers, and also for the learners to understand that that's the goal. You know, it's not like, oh, it can do my homework, you know, so we can move beyond that.
Yeah. And it's funny, we had in our teachers meeting this last September, there was a teacher who's like, I've never used AI and I'm not interested in using it. And I said, that's okay. You can be a successful teacher, but you know, there may be something you're missing. Like you may have some tools here that you're being, you know, maybe you shouldn't be so, you know, so.
Sure.
And I've heard a rumor that she has started to use AI. So I don't know if that's true yet. I'll have to confirm that.
Yeah. Or infiltrate, right? Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for the session.
Much. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you very much for
sharing. Matthew. Kata, I see your hand is raised. We'd love to hear from you. Hi.
So first of all, thank you, Gabriella, for a great talk. And what I would like to share is maybe a little idea that I transfer from my university translation classes, how to use AI in coaching for developing the critical thinking. So when we have the stage of the coaching conversation, when the coachee is going to generate some ideas, some options for them, I sometimes ask them I ask them to generate the options on their own, but then they could check what AI could propose on that. And then we could have a little discussion. What do I take from AI and what can I take from my own options? So not to exclude it completely, but to show that it's also an idea to broaden a little bit the perspective, but always to start with own ideas, right? Yeah. So this is what we do with the translation, because it helps develop the critical thinking in our students.
Yeah, and what came to my mind with that, thank you, is, you know, it's a bit like you need to have the anchor You have to have it in the seabed, because if not, the boat is just going to drift away and you won't know where it goes. So it's a little bit like with learners, you know, they just have to be anchored, and it's just so important that they understand what and why they're doing and how they can do it. So again, it's the responsibilities and the kind of like the boundaries of what is and what isn't okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Any other kind of, I don't know, either questions or just an observation or some sort of maybe even takeaway? I don't know. I'm well aware of the time, so if you have to leave, I understand, but I really appreciate it.
Should we do our selfie first?
We can do a selfie, of course, yes.
Okay. Those of you who have your cameras turned off, if you want to turn them back on.
Yeah, this is the moment.
No pressure, but if you want to be in the selfie. Yeah, and then we'll get to you, Ilja. I see your hand raised there after.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready? Is everybody who's going to have it on? Let me get this going. Okay, and 1, 2, cheese. All right, done.
Yeah.
Hopefully no one had their eyes closed.
Well, let's see.
Okay, Ilja, go ahead. Let's hear it.
Hello, great to see you. See you in Malta again.
Yes,
I have a more like a general observation, because this AI has been such a great thing. I think I kind of look at it like in a very wide kind of approach. Books haven't disappeared. I mean, cinemas haven't disappeared. Theaters haven't disappeared. Like last week, I was 4 days in Madrid in this FITUR International Tourism Exhibition, you know, and it's like crazy. You know, you have 12 big halls. You can walk through, you know, all over the world, like all continents are there. You can find that all on internet. But I think we all want this human connection, human to human. And if we are going to lose that, when, you know, who cares when we are all robots? But I still believe this also applies to teaching, coaching language, you know. People want people, they need connection. We are human beings. And I'm very relaxed, you know, I have my clients, I'm coaching English, you know, communication. This communication side, this human connection, it can never be replaced. If it's replaced, then who cares? Humanity is over, I believe. It's kind of very general statement, but I think it has a, you know, I was in this exhibition. It's my side hustle during summer. I'm working as a guide because I live in a national park. I spent 4 days talking Spanish to, you know, to Spaniards. I'm not teaching, you know, I'm learning Spanish myself. So it's very easy. You know, I relate this to my clients, English coaching, because I'm going through all this struggle, you know, all this bloody grammar and everything, making mistakes, and still, you know, I think I would fail any test in Spanish, but I haven't failed in life. You know, I can talk, I can close deals. Yeah. But I think what all this my talking is about human connection. I was there like looking at these hundreds, thousands of people with these amazing presentations, dancing, singing, you know, all these performances. You know, why you can make connections on the internet, you know, from Australia to, I don't know, Argentina.
It's not the
we
same.
all want to meet. We all want to meet and talk.
Yeah.
I think I will never take it over. And if it does, you know, then humanity is over.
Hopefully not.
No, it's not. That's why I think really just, of course, we have to be very flexible, you know, roles are changing, and it's a great support. It's a great, you know, kind of.
Exactly. It's support, which means that the fundamental structure is the people who are using it, right? Yeah. And AI should not be able to take over. Well, it's a technical issue, obviously, and I'm not going into it. I have no idea, but
so I just wanted to share this. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, while we can, you know, sing and dance together, I mean, there's no fear, no real fear, but right. Okay. Well, I think we're going to close it up for today. If there are no more kind of questions or comments or anything, I'm very happy to share the slides if you want to, you know, use them in the future. I'm fine with that. So write an email. Also, if you're interested in any of our courses or our YouTube channel, or, you know, the conference obviously is there. If you want to give a talk, if you feel that there's something that you can contribute, that would be amazing. So our call for speakers is still open until 1st of February, or maybe if there are, 1 or 2 days extra. I think I'm sure we're fine with that. If you have to consider what sort of topic you want to be talking about, then that's fine. And it was very nice to see some new faces today, and of course everyone that I already know and am familiar with. So I think we'll be closing now. Yeah. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for your time. We do have another field cohort starting in early
Gabriella,
February.
I have your book. You know?
Wonderful. Wonderful. What do you think? What do you think?
I love it. I still have to go on reading it because I have not started from the very beginning, but from places I'm interested in. So, but it's
wonderful.
A very nice companion, and so
lovely.
For
nice companion. Wonderful. Thank you very much for that.
Bye.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. Hopefully we meet in the next expert talk, etc. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Bye. Thank you.
Gabriella. Thank you, Carrie.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good to see you.